All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the show. We're here today with author Jennifer Carr. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I am very well. You alluded to the fact before this that it is Monday, and
Listen, okay, so I spent 2 weeks ago, I was a counselor at a kid's soccer camp. Last week, I was a counselor at a youth summer camp, and this week, I am doing kids' Bible camp. So when I tell you I'm a masochist,
yeah, that's
yes,
pushing.
so I'm great.
Could probably use a day off coming up here, yeah.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
that's wonderful. I think about this with careers sometimes. There's careers that are very difficult. Like for example, I think ambulance drivers, paramedics, they have about a 5 year career lifespan. But it's got to be really tough to walk away because like what you're doing is so deeply meaningful, even if it's
Yeah.
very hard on your brain and your spirit. You know what I mean?
I do. And I'm very fortunate because when you are an author and you host podcasts, it's your schedule is very flexible. And so
Right.
I'm happy to have that opportunity, to have
Right.
that job.
No, I mean, and it's a wonderful thing, and I think any investment in the next generation is a worthy thing to do, right? I mean, what could be more important, you know?
I'm telling you, it does not matter if they are homeschooled or public schooled or Christian schooled or all of the above schooled. However, they are still just being inundated with all of these messages that just mental health in this world and kids and teenagers, it would boggle your mind if we started talking statistics. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's devastating. So I'm happy and privileged for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking just like the outlook for this next generation. I mean, it's like, how do you maintain your mental health in the face of just this crippling weight of doom and gloom that's just raining down on them constantly from every angle.
Yes, well, and you know what? If you would just put it down, just put down the cell phone, right? Like put down the technology and walk away from it because it is doing you no favors. I don't care how old you are, it's doing you no favors.
Uh, so since I didn't realize, you're kind of like spiritual, religious Christian,
Yeah.
I was watching a video the other day. Okay, I love watching exorcism videos like these guys who do it, like just so fascinating. Another one is out of body experiences.
Oof.
And this young girl got in like a car accident. She went out of her body for a couple minutes. And she basically said Jesus came to her just to deliver some messages back. But the one that really stuck with me, like there were some great insights. One of them was that this phone is pulling you away from your family and your loved ones and your real people. Like all of this stuff, the news, the technology,
Yeah.
all of it is pulling you out of your real life and taking you out into the world and you're becoming more distant. And
Mhm.
after that, I took my family to a restaurant. You look over at the table next to you, and
Yep.
everyone is on a phone. And I'm like, God, like whether you're a Christian or not, I mean, you can't dispute that that is true. Like that is so very true. And I'm trying to be more conscious of that myself. I'm like, you know what? My
Yeah.
real life is right here in person with my son, with my wife. But it's hard to do. I mean, I don't know. These things are addictive. They're built that way, you know?
That's exactly what they are. And if even if you don't see it from a spiritual perspective,
Right.
I could take my marriage and family counselor. I was a marriage and family counselor for years, and when I take that hat and put it back on, I can just tell you that the damage that it's doing. And kids see what we're doing as the parents and adults, and so they
Right.
copy that. So it's our responsibility and it's our fault that we're letting it
Mm.
happen. And so I know this is not author related, but I could get on a soapbox so big on this topic.
It's real life related and it's so
It is.
important, right? I mean, as authors, I mean, one of the things we're doing is expressing and we're trying to connect, we're trying to be understood, we're trying to help other people reconnect. And this conversation is really no different, even though it's not
Yeah.
directly related to our
Right.
books. I mean, it's kind of the soul of an artist, right? To be like, you know what? We need to connect. Yeah.
Well, for sure. And especially as indie authors, we spend so much time online that it's
Right.
really easy to be like, it's all in the name of work. But I mean, that doom scroll is real. And so
Yeah.
I get sucked into it and I'm like, oh, you know what? There went 30 minutes down the drain or longer.
I feel awful. I probably shouldn't admit this. I don't watch anyone's videos. Like I really don't. And it's not that I don't, I don't care. I'm not interested. It's nothing like that. It's like I gotta post my stuff and just walk away.
Yeah.
Like the right here and now demands my focus. I mean, times are tight. It's like I'm
Right.
like if you let yourself get pulled away and you're only bringing 80% of yourself to your real life. I mean, it's hard to not fall behind in this kind of current world. You know what I mean?
It can be really, and it's very tempting to want to keep up with everybody because you do see these people that are like just banging out those TikToks, or they're just constantly. But I
Mhm.
will tell you that it's necessary, right? You have to do the work. And
Mhm.
so like finding a time to batch post and to schedule things ahead, like you can schedule on TikTok ahead, you can make all your videos and use the desktop version, the browser
Mm.
version, and schedule your TikToks ahead. Some people don't aren't aware that you can do that,
I
but
didn't
you
know
can
that.
absolutely, yes. So go,
Yeah.
using the browser version, using the Meta Business Suite, those kinds of things, that will help you
Mm.
save some of that time, but you do have to engage a little bit in order for your algorithm to keep you in everybody else's vision. So you have to be careful not to step too far back. So
Yeah.
finding that balance is crucial.
That's the balance because whatever algorithm they got, and I know it's always changing, but at
Yeah.
least at the current moment, it feels like they want you to be a member of the community. Like they like when you are commenting,
Yep.
engaging with, and watching videos all the way to the end, and they reward you for doing that. But it is, I mean, oh God, it can be, and I talk about this with a lot of authors. I mean, you either see authors who are doing really well or ones who are struggling, and either way, it can give you big feelings that are not necessarily positive, right? Like you can feel like, oh, like why is my stuff not connecting, or oh, no one is getting there, and this is such a hard journey, and I should probably redirect and go do something else.
It's so hard because that imposter syndrome is real too. And so we get this in our heads that, oh my gosh, well, let me just tell you, don't reinvent the wheel. Like this is something, and I'm going into like 3 years of doing this. So I'm not saying I have all
Okay.
the answers, but I've experienced some stuff and I figured some
Yeah.
stuff out. Reinventing the wheel's not good for you because it's already there. CapCut templates, use the heck out of those. They're there for a reason. Find the ones that have the high
Yep.
views and use those. It's already made for you. Just insert your little picture. From the bottom up, share favorite and like you on TikTok, that, and
Yeah.
I will just say TikTok's probably it's my biggest platform, and so I'm on it more often, and so I can do
Yeah. Me
that. But
too.
yeah, there are ways, but don't
Yeah.
make it
For
harder than it
me,
is.
that's a good point. I gotta use CapCut more because it is like a powerful tool.
It is.
But I'm always so reluctant to adopt new things. I'm like, I mean, it takes forever. I gotta hear something 10 times before I'll try it. But I mean, I know
That's
CapCut
fair.
now. Yeah. But yeah, TikTok for me is definitely the biggest one. Like it feels like I'll put the same video on TikTok and who knows? I mean, there's kind of no upper limit, but I put the same one on Instagram and like there's a hard 100 view limit and then they bury it under 6 feet of dirt. Like,
Yes. Well, and I have two different audiences. TikTok is a completely different audience than
right.
on Facebook and Instagram. And so, like, demographic wise and everything, totally
Mm.
different. And so, you have to handle them very differently, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, that's a good point though. Like, because I'll take the same stuff, put it on, like, I've got the YouTube, Threads,
Mhm.
Instagram. I even have Clapper, and I'm finding that these are different ecosystems. Like I at first I thought, oh, this is going to be really annoying for anyone who kind of like follows me on all of them. Be like, okay, I already know, but I'm like, actually, I mean, you're reaching completely different people.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I will tell you, I know there are a lot of people who have this real, like, vehement feeling about AI. But if you will
Hmm.
use ChatGPT to help you figure out who your demographic is, which ads
Right.
will work better on which platform, it's
Hmm.
actually really good at that kind of logistical management. So I'm not saying that you
Keywords and
should use it for
things.
everything, but
No, there is a place, and I know there's all these witch hunts. I love AI. I don't use it for writing,
right.
but it's wonderful for marketing, and I love the
Mhm.
AI image generating stuff. And I know that's like threatening a lot of artists out there, graphic designers and things. But I kind of also know that like you either embrace new technology or get left behind, right? Like I'm not going to be that last guy riding a horse saying like cars are stupid. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you gotta roll with the world. But ChatGPT, I mean, it can pull all the trends of today, right? Like if you want to know, like, hey, what are the keywords? I mean, ChatGPT, you can use it to keep your finger on the
Yep.
pulse of like where are people at, and that's what it's good at. It doesn't necessarily tell you the truth, but it tells you what people believe is true today.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly right. And it's a tool that is meant to be used in that way, right? It's not supposed
Right.
to take over the human brain or anything like that. It is literally an assistant. I named mine Frank. I call him
Hmm.
Frank in my GPT. His name is Frank, and he's like, Frank's here to help. And I'm like, yes, you are. And so
Yes,
like
you
he
are,
is my
Frank. Thank you, Frank.
personal assistant, and so
Oh,
but you can't use it for everything, but you can use it for a lot of things.
No, I mean, it's a powerful tool. I use it for like website SEO too.
Yeah,
So I'm like, okay, how do you incorporate in these keywords seamlessly,
yeah,
like on your website language? Because like if your website doesn't matter what you say, if no one can find it,
right,
that's not helping you, right? And ChatGPT knows here are what people are searching for, and here's some clever ways to integrate these words into the sentences you already have.
exactly.
But, if you tried to use it for actual creative writing, it by definition can't generate a creative thought. Like it's great at kids books, right? Because the whole point is like let's take the collective information of all the adults and let's sum it down into the clearest possible terms. So like ChatGPT could write kids books all day.
Right,
But in
right.
terms of like coming up with a novel that symbolically makes more sense than just logically. ChatGPT is not built to do that. And it'll just come out with just this generic, ridiculous, kind of voiceless,
Yeah.
unless you tell it, like, write this the way Hemingway would write it or something. And I don't know, maybe it can do that, but I'm not sure.
And if you do that, make sure you take it out of the thing that you're copying and pasting. Because did you see, have you seen there has been at least one author who got caught saying, write this in the voice of and specified an author, but forgot to erase her prompt from her final manuscript and published the prompt
No,
in there.
people saw that. Oh,
Oh, everybody. I mean, it was published that way. So
right.
that is just one more reason that don't do it. They will find
Don't
you
do
out.
it. And it also takes the fun out of it, right? Like, can you really
Yeah.
be proud of it if it
Yeah.
isn't actually yours?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I have seen, employers sending emails and they forget to put that bottom part out. Like, if I can help you with anything else, or if you need help, and they're like, employees are reading this, like, what? It's like,
Yeah, even my
oh,
boss uses it, but we're not allowed to. Wait.
right. It's like, wait, my boss doesn't read their own emails before doesn't write them, doesn't read them. I was like, this is all feeling a little impersonal. Yeah.
Yes, and your boss
All
is
right.
there to care.
Yes. So I want to talk about your books, which is really why we're here. We have limited time. Okay. So you've been doing this 3 years.
Hmm.
I want to say you have a certain confidence about you that is awesome. No, it feels like you're in a groove. You got like your
Yeah.
books are out there. You got some rhythm, some momentum. You kind of know what works, what doesn't work.
Hmm.
So I'm really excited. Of all your books, got your just the Amazon part pulled up.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite? I know that's tough. Like, what is your favorite kid?
Do you know, like, people always say their first book is their favorite, and it will always
Mm,
hold a special place for me because it was my first book.
right.
But I will just say that of the ones that are published, because I've got several more in the hopper waiting to be edited. So my
Yeah.
favorite that's been published is probably Fall When You're Ready, and that's the first book of the Real American Country series.
Yeah. I love the cover too.
Thank you. Okay, let me tell you, that is one of the things that if you are going to publish your book, self-publish your book, the cover matters because this is actually the second cover this book has
Mm,
had. And when I tell you within 2 weeks of updating the cover to something like this, and I did both of them, but this one I
yeah.
like the better, my sales increased by a lot.
Interesting. Do you think Amazon pushes them forward when you make a change, or just like people like organically looking at it, are like, oh, that feels better.
Maybe,
I want that.
maybe both, but I think this one fits the story better. The first one fit the
Hmm.
story, but this one really, and my kid, she's 15, and she saw it, she goes, that looks like something I'd see at Barnes and Noble. And I was like, but the first one didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
Right,
you
right,
have to be
right.
very careful, but those covers matter.
Do you do any like market testing with like a select group, or you just like, I make it feels right and putting it out there, and then either works or doesn't, maybe we'll change it later.
I make it and put it out there and hope for the best.
Yeah, me too. I'm like,
I'm
yo,
not patient enough.
I need a team. Honestly, I need a whole team. I've heard like the shout out to Holleen Coover, but Colleen Hoover, my goodness,
Yeah,
I
I'm with you.
might be dyslexic. I've heard she perhaps has like a team of people who like, if there's a specific scene that's kind of maybe a little bit out of her wheelhouse, you maybe pass that to somebody. And don't quote me because that may not be the case. She might do all of her own stuff. But I have heard that other authors do have a team, and it's like, writing a fight scene isn't my thing, or
Yeah.
writing a lovemaking scene, or whatever it may be. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of not my, yeah. So I don't know. We might need to put together a team here,
So
at
I
least
will
market.
tell you, so my editor, she is my developmental editor, she is my copy editor, all of my editing. She's
Yeah.
also my sister. And
There
so
you go.
we go back and forth I'm like, hey, does this work? And so I have a very open line to my editor.
There you
So
go.
if I need something, but for the most part, I am pretty sure in my stories, but I do use beta readers and
Hmm.
such. So that's a little different, but not for like the cover and stuff.
Yeah, I'm actually just now trying out the beta reader thing. I've never done that. I've always just put the books out there and hope for the
Yeah.
best. I don't even know if by the time you're done editing, you don't even know if your book is good. You're like, I've read it so many times. I'm like, I don't even know if this is worth publishing.
Beta readers will tell you for
Beta
sure.
readers will let you.
They don't hold back either.
Well, I love that your sister's your editor. I mean, any family enterprise, like I've been thinking of ways to like bring my own family into this, and
Yeah.
it's not obvious to me, but like anything that's like this is a family business. We're gonna like win, lose, or draw. We're gonna
Yeah.
do it together. We're gonna grow together here. I mean, I love that. I love that.
I love it too. I do pay her. She gets paid. She gets paid
That's
half
good.
of what I paid my very first editor, but it's a friends and family discount, but she does get paid nicely.
There you go. Well, that's one
Yeah.
advantage of family is like, well, they'll do it for free.
But you give them a free shirt, they'll wear it and advertise for you. So I'm just saying, there are ways to get the
That's
family
good.
involved that doesn't cost as much.
Turn them all into walking billboards and
That's
go out
exactly
more.
right.
I
They
love
may
it.
not
I
read
love
your
it.
book, but they'll wear a shirt.
Ah, I might put my covers on the side of my car. Like I got like a
Yeah.
2014 Civic. It's not that nice. I'm like, we can put some posters,
Magnets. Yeah. I like it.
something or other. So what about Fall When You're Ready? Why is it so near and dear to your heart?
It's really funny. It was actually supposed to be a standalone book, and so I poured everything into this story. And it's
Mhm.
a best friends to lovers kind of story. And
Okay.
that was my story with my husband. We met when we were 13. These kids meet in kindergarten and they just grow up together. But
Okay.
it combines my love of that trope and country music, 90s country music and
Okay.
reality
Be
TV. And
specific.
so,
Be specific.
yes, and there's a difference. There's a big difference. So yeah, it
Oh,
just has all the things I love, and I just put it all out there. And
is that kind of? It seems like I'm seeing kind of a common thread. It seems like
Mhm.
most of your books are love stories. Like that's like a you love writing about love stories.
I do write. I write no spice contemporary romance. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I
Hmm.
love that. I love that. And we need more of that. I don't know.
I
People,
love
they
love.
need, yeah. And people, I think, oh God, like not to hijack the podcast. I'm working on this whole seven deadly sins thing in this Greek mythology. And it feels
Ooh.
like everything that goes wrong with people is almost like a misconstrued natural phenomenon, right? Like people want to love, they want to connect. And then the misunderstanding of that leads to the promiscuity, all these things like pride going out of control. I mean, they're all like natural things that are supposed to be there, and we just take them too far and use
Yep,
them in an unnatural way. You know what I mean?
for sure. I
Yeah.
like
But love
that.
and
That sounds awesome.
connection. Oh, I'm stoked.
I
God,
bet.
I need help finishing it because it's tricky, and I don't want to hijack, but somehow as an author, your favorite work is always your work in progress, right? Like,
Usually.
yeah, the one you're craziest about is the one that isn't even available. You're like, God, this is
Right.
my,
I
but
can't talk about this yet.
I can't even talk about it yet, but it's my favorite.
Yeah.
Um, what got you into writing?
I've always written. I've always been a writer,
Yeah,
journals or bad poetry, whatever the case may be. There were, you know, there were several contests through middle school and high school that I won, but it was always nonfiction writing. It was never fiction. And so,
yeah,
and then I went to grad school and I loved writing research papers. And I thought, oh, I could do this forever, but it got really expensive to write research papers.
oh yeah,
And so I was like, okay, we're done with that. And so I didn't know that it could be a career until
yeah.
about I guess technically about 4 years ago was when I woke up from a dream and I thought, I wonder how that was going to end. And
Huh.
I was like, I need to write that down. So I started writing and I was probably what would be about 4 chapters in of my very first book. And I was like, hey, honey, I think I'm going to write a book. And he was like, cool. I don't know what that means.
Very
And I said,
great.
me neither. So we just started, I started writing. He would read it. And probably 6 months later, I was like, now what do I do? And so I was like, I need an editor. And so I found an editor. And so that was probably about a year's process. And then the first book was published. And I thought, but what happened to those characters? And it just kind of like spun out of control from
Interesting.
there.
So it wasn't this like grandiose vision. It was like I had a dream and I got to put that on paper. And then you're like, oh, this thing has momentum and it's
Yeah,
going. I don't know where it's going to go, and we're just going to find out.
for real. Yeah. And I loved it. And I thought it was therapeutic, it was entertaining,
Yeah.
and people wanted to read it. And I thought that was the craziest part was that other
Right?
people wanted to read it. And so, yeah, it just kind of
Uh,
snowballed.
it is so weird. I have. on this podcast, so many authors I've interviewed talk about books coming from dreams.
Yeah.
And dreams to me trip me up, right? Because like when you're in your dream, you're kind of yourself. And then this whole other part of your mind you don't know about creates an entire world and all these
Yeah.
characters and throws you in it, kind of knowing exactly what you'll do and how you'll react, and then chooses to show you certain things and not show you certain things. And I'm like, what the hell is that other part of you that put this world together? Like, what
Yeah.
is that? Yeah. But so many books come out of that place. I mean, I don't know if we download them or like, they come from the cloud or just there's some deeply rooted part of us that's a genius. I have no idea.
I don't know either. I will say that the dream and the book ended up very different. Like
Right.
there were some similarities, but it turned out very different the more I wrote. And then I would go back and I would be like, but you know what? Technically, because dreams aren't always fluid.
Coherent.
They don't just, yeah,
Yeah.
they don't just go right. You're going, I don't
Right.
think a swamp creature belongs in my romance book, but
You're like, yeah, wait,
whatever.
why is he there in their house?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
doesn't make
So
sense.
a lot of things changed, but it was still a really interesting experience. And then from there, like I said, I just needed to know the characters became real people, and so it just kind of went from there. So,
So like at least the initial seed of the story came out of
hmm
this dream, and then
hmm
the book itself took on kind of a life of its own as
right.
it's because the book like tells you while you're writing it what's supposed to
Yeah,
be there and not supposed to be there, and it's like a living thing almost.
exactly.
Oh, so let me ask you this. So there's people who let's say play music and stuff just for the love of playing music.
Hmm.
And to me, somehow that art is like so much more beautiful than just having this dream of being like the next big rock star. Um, since your dream, it didn't come out of some grandiose vision that like I'm going to be a best-selling author and this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to be the next, whoever.
Yeah.
Um, you know, do you feel like very successful, right? Like, I mean, I was talking about this with another author. Like, if your goal is to make an impact on a couple people, like you've done it, right? Like, you
Yeah.
wrote your book, you published it, it's out there. Like, you are successful. But then to someone else who's got this big vision, it's like, no, until I reach a certain level,
Oh.
this whole endeavor isn't successful. So, like, how do you feel?
I love what I get to do. And so to me, that's pretty successful.
Yeah.
I don't set this sounds terrible. I don't set goals in that way. I don't say that I need to by this point in my life need to have reached this level of pages read, books sold, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love the community of it. I love that I have built that I'm building actively a community of readers that will take that story and share it with other people because it meant something to them. I love the messages that I get in the second book. So my first book, very, very first book was No Matter What. The second book is called The
Mhm.
Lost and Found. And in that book, you learn more about one of the characters' family and that his brother committed suicide and that he had a son later on who he named after that brother. I had
Mhm.
a reader email me and say, do you know that my brother committed suicide and I also named my son after that brother and they had the same name as the character in the book? And I thought, I
Love
would
it.
not have known that, but I like to be able to make those personal connections. She was like, it was just so graceful and beautiful. And it was a memory for me. And I said, I love that. And, we had a conversation about it. So things like that I just love and live for.
That kind of gave me like chills a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Me too. When it happened, I was like, oh, how did
oh,
that?
yeah, that's wild. I mean, and like for all we know, I mean, your book might have been just for her. It might
Right.
have. I mean, who knows, right? Like, and how did this reader even come across your book? I mean,
For
it's
sure.
yeah, life is really wild. It kind of
Oh,
astonishes
yeah.
me when people don't believe in anything. Like, they don't have to be any specific thing, but to be like, there's nothing else. I'm like, okay,
Okay. You can, good
okay,
luck.
no, but that's such a I mean, you could be a bestseller in like a very, let's say, impersonal way. It's like you're running ads,
Right.
but you have no presence, and maybe you've got this money coming in, but missing out on that personal
Yes.
connection.
Right.
I mean, being able to speak to people and hear what something meant to them is, I mean, that's like an incredible, a very, very meaningful feeling. You know what I mean?
It is. And that to me, like, it's not about me. Once I've written the book and put it out there, it's for somebody else. And if they get something for it, fantastic. I had fun writing it, right?
Right.
I'm not reliant on this income. I will just put it that way. Would my husband love for me to be his sugar mama and help him retire early? Absolutely. Is that
Yeah.
going to happen? Maybe when he's 74. We'll see. You know what I mean? But I'm loving this journey that I'm on because that's what it is. And I just keep picking up, here's a friend and here's a friend. And, you know,
Yeah.
we have powwows online together. And so, yeah, I feel successful even if it's not to somebody else's standard.
Right. God, everything you're describing is how I feel on like a really, really good day.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then there are also are those days where I'm like, God, I want to like
Oh,
transition to being like just a full-time author and like this is
yes.
what I want to do and I want to dive in
Yeah.
head first. And I like feel like I'm wrestling with the Lord about the timing of things. I'm like, no, 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 I'm ready today. And he's like, no,
You're
you're
not.
not. It's like
And
maybe tomorrow, maybe
oh,
tomorrow.
I am his number one, like I will he has to slap me down so many times. He's like, "Hey, pull back on those reins, Jennifer," because I am that. I want to run ahead. I see the vision. I know it's there. I know my path to get there. And he's like, "Yeah, but I could give you an easier path over here if you just chill for a minute."
Right.
You know? Like,
We're like, hey, there's a missing piece you don't know about, and it's gonna come in
yes.
exactly when you need it. And I need you to just slow down and go with the river. Stop trying to swim ahead.
And he's so
Stop trying to
faithful, and
swim.
we are so not.
I know, and it's time and time again, it's like he hasn't let me down, but somehow I'm still always like, oh, are you sure? Like, do you really have my back this time? And it's like, God, this never-ending tango that I've been doing for 33 years, right?
I'm telling you. Oh my gosh, but he loves you anyway.
Yeah, despite it, he knows who I am. So
He made
like,
you.
yeah, even if it's humorous, and he probably has a great sense of humor. I imagine that's
He would have to. He
he
would
would have
have
to.
to.
He would have to. Do you have a current work in progress?
Oh, honey, there's always
Right.
always a work in progress. Yes,
Yeah.
actually. One of my I do like a Freak Out Friday. I haven't actually done a Freak Out Friday post in a while, but my last one was I'm freaking out because I was looking at the schedule that I've made for publishing.
Yeah.
And when I tell you the number of works in progress I have based on that schedule, it's unreal.
Ah, yeah, I feel like there's so many stories still ahead.
Yeah.
And then even like which fruit from the tree is ripe that we're gonna pick and what's the next book and just kind of waiting for life to give you that feedback of like but do you have anyone that you're like halfway through or just you got a bunch that you're like, I could start this, I could start that, and I'm not really sure which one to go with.
So the Real American Country series has all been written, and my goal is to
Mm,
spin that one off into another series based on one of the characters from Real American Country
okay.
and his family. And so that one, the first book in that one is in progress, but I'm also branching into nonfiction. I'm writing
Mm,
a nonfiction about purity culture. It's a
okay.
very hinky topic for some people, but some of us
Mm,
grew up in like the 90s at that true love waits and all that stuff, and it did some damage. And so I'm tackling a pretty scary issue in that. So that's right now, that is actually my biggest project that I'm working on.
do you want to talk about that one at all? Because I know nothing about it, but if it is too early, it's
Oh.
too sensitive, you
I mean,
know,
it is sensitive in that, I mean, you're talking about sex and Jesus, right? And you're talking
right.
about how there was a lot of shame and a lot of just don't because I said so, like sex before marriage. I agree that sex should happen in the union of a marriage because there's a
Mm,
lot that comes with it. The emotional strings, the physical strings, all of that happens.
yeah,
But some of us didn't wait until marriage. And that
right.
doesn't mean that God loves you less or any differently, right? It just means that we are called to continue to confess and repent and live a different lifestyle afterward,
Mm,
and wait for that person that God has set out for us. So it's,
right.
but a lot of us, we were hurt by people who said, first of all, you're a female and it's your fault.
Yeah.
Second of all, so there was a lot of pressure there. Don't show your shoulders and definitely don't show your knees and stuff like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
there was a lot of grace, I mean, not a lot of grace and a whole lot of judgment involved. So we're just kind of tackling that and trying to untangle some lies that we were told throughout our teenage years and that kind of thing, growing up in that mentality of just don't do it because I said so. And so,
Yeah. It feels like when you're talking about like biblical teachings, right? Like they'll tell you kind of the end state of things
mhm.
without telling you necessarily the why. Like Moses gives the
Yes.
law, and you don't like every human being. I think by the time you're 90, 100 years old, like you have played out so many scenarios of good and evil that
Mm,
like, you know what I mean? Whatever is true or not true is kind of played out in your life, right? Like if you're, unfaithful in your marriage, I mean, how does that end up when you're 90 years old? Or,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like we're all kind of by an old age, we're a living testament of like, this is true. And it was true all along. And so many people before us told us it's true. And I had to find out the hard way.
Yeah.
Um, and really, like for people to speak well of you at your funeral someday, you just have to be decent.
I
Like that's all you got to do, and
mean,
people will be like, that was a good man, it was a good woman.
yeah,
But somehow we still feel the need to play these things out. But that is interesting the pressure we put on women like that. And I have some dear family friends who grew up very religious and um, have been trying to hold out until marriage, but it's a very very difficult thing to do. And I mean,
it is.
these you can take it too far where you're like, okay, God is mad at me, God is punishing me,
Hmm.
and I'm
Hmm.
punishing myself. And I'm like, I don't know if this is necessarily constructive. Like, I think the real sin is sleeping with someone you don't love and care about. More than anything else, it's like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's the worst thing is, and when you're married, it's one of the most powerful tools you have in your marriage. You know what I
It
mean?
is. It is. And it's all part of a covenant, right? It's all part of an actual covenant that you are making with another person. And when it happens outside of marriage, you are taking that covenant and breaking it before you've actually made it, if that makes any sense. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of because a covenant is permanent, right?
Mm.
There's no breaking a covenant. And so anyway, it's just a matter of walking through. However, when it happens, when you don't succeed, when you aren't pure all the way up until your wedding night, like there's still grace. Grace
Right.
covers a multitude of sins. Now, that doesn't excuse you. You are still held to a certain standard as a believer,
Right.
but there is grace. And that was something that was left out a long time ago. And so that's kind of what we're like trying to untangle.
Yeah. And having realistic conversations with like society and where we are and
Yes.
everything. I do see there's two weird guys about to come knock on my door, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna have to go deal with that really quick or not. I don't know. It's probably trying to sell me into a roof or something. You
I'll
able to give me
invite you to
one?
church. You're
I
fine.
just well, they're wearing the yellow reflector vests, so like,
Ooh, they're about to cut off your internet, so what's about to happen?
oh, I was like, I think I paid that bill. I don't know. We're gonna find out here. We're gonna find out in a minute here. Give me 1 second
You're
just to see
fine,
this
yeah.
name.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's always the roofers. I swear, once a week I get someone like, "Hey, we were just you've had hail damage in the neighborhood," and I don't know. It keeps happening. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, we could go down. There's a lot of okay. So for your graduate research,
Hmm. Hmm.
you said you're a marriage counselor. If I
Marriage and
heard
family counselor, yep.
marriage and family counselor, was that your research was kind of centered around?
It actually wasn't.
Oh,
This actually was a topic that I started working with teenagers again, like pretty exclusively about a year ago.
okay.
And it just kind of like started to form. It was an idea that formed in my head. Yeah, no,
Hmm.
marriage and family, my research in grad school was on adoption and postpartum depression. And
Interesting.
yeah, it was a very heavy couple of years, but yeah,
Yeah. God, there is a price we pay for like exploring some of the more difficult.
for sure.
Yeah, like it can even writing a book. I mean, going through like your character, the
Hmm.
suicide and
Hmm.
everything. Having to look that in the face and
For
write it and
sure.
understand it, trying to understand it because you can't develop characters you don't understand.
Yep.
I'm not sure if people necessarily recognize the toll that sometimes we got to like rebuild ourselves a little bit sometimes after certain scenes or books or something.
Yes. Do you know though, I felt like I had been through multiple therapy sessions every time I wrote. Now the first,
Hmm.
no matter what, was it was heavy. It was a romantic suspense. And so
Yeah.
there was a lot of psychology involved, which, I'm good at. She was almost a profiler. Did you ever see the show Lie to Me where he could read micro expressions on some people's faces?
No, no, sounds good
Okay,
though.
fantastic show.
Yeah.
The main character had that ability to read micro expressions. She could read people and, whether they're lying, get a read on them, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of fun. But at the same time, there was a lot of grief and loss and
Yeah.
crime solving. So I was like, ooh, but then we'd have happy moments. And so that
Yeah,
was
okay.
therapy.
That sounds kind of fun actually. And
It was fun.
despite, yeah, it sounds like fun to write. And I like the any like solving crimes and mysteries, just I don't know.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
fun to write. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Um, what is wrapped up in you?
Wrapped Up in You is book two of Real American Country. And so, what happens in the series, they're all interconnected standalones. And so, each book
Okay.
follows at least one of the contestants, if not two, and their love story as they go
Yeah.
through a reality TV show for country music artists.
Are they based in Nashville by chance, or where are they?
They are. The show takes place in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, very good. Wait, are you? I think you and I talked about. Are you in Nashville, or are
I'm in
you?
Alabama, but we're in Birmingham, so Nashville is one of our happy places.
I'm in Murfreesboro, so we are.
Yes, I remember that. You're right there.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love the country music scene, but it is changing rapidly.
it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
I heard an interesting thing. So I was interviewing a guy just really quick, and he was talking about kind of why do certain cities have a certain musical sound. And he was talking back in the day, the Grand Ole Opry had the biggest radio antenna. So they were broadcasting country music further than the average radio. And then somehow it was like they were calling out in the dark, and then all these musicians started just kind of wandering here. And over time, Nashville has just become this. Apparently, it is the largest gathering of artists in human history.
I believe it.
Yeah,
I
and
do.
it's a wild, wild thing, but I love it here. So anything based in Nashville, near and dear to my
No,
heart. Yeah.
yay, I love it. No, Nashville and 90s country, specifically 90s
Yes.
country, some 80s, but definitely the 90s country is like,
Yeah. If I'm out fishing or something, that's the best. I don't know. It just gives you the best feeling.
yes.
So we have less than a minute left until Zoom kicks us out. Where should people look for you? Look for your books. Do you have a preferred place that people follow you or buy your books?
So I am J Carr Writes across all platforms, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, my website, jcarwrites.com. If you just search Jennifer Carr, most likely you will find me, but J Carr Writes will get you directly to me.
Sweet. And then TikTok is your preferred social?
I am there more often than not, but I do get a lot of engagement on Facebook these days. So, and sometimes
Okay.
it's just a little more fun.
Wonderful. And then are you on Ingram or just it's Amazon right now with the Kindle
You
Unlimited?
get Ingram, Amazon, but I also sell directly on my website.